Before we start this video, I want to give a huge thank you to everyone watching. This is my 700th car review here on YouTube, and that is because of your guys' support that I'm able to do this, so thank you very much. Let's talk about the ML. This review has been made possible by Chevrolet of Naperville. As you know, Chevy has tons of brand new cars and trucks available for purchase, but did you know that they also have a remarkable selection of used cars? Head on over to ChevroletofNaperville.com and look through hundreds of used cars for sale right now. Alright, what's up guys? My name is Zach, and today I am driving a 2004 Mercedes ML350. Up front is a 3.7 liter V6, and down below is a 5-speed automatic transmission. Now, I'm super excited to be driving this here ML for a couple of reasons. First of all, this is my 700th review, like I said at the beginning, so thank you everyone who has supported me thus far. It's exciting to hit another milestone. The second reason I'm excited is because I have a friend who has an ML. That's why this one's called Phoning It In. The third reason I'm excited to be driving this ML because it has 113,000 miles on it, and 113 is my lucky number. And the fourth is that I don't bring a whole lot of old Mercedes to the channel. They're just not that common around here. I can't really find or get my hands on many. So the fact that I'm in one at all is always a nice touch. But before we get on to that 3.7 liter, if you guys would like to help out the channel, I do have a website, ZackPradle.com. It'll be linked in the description below. You can submit your own vehicle to be reviewed, or you can buy merch, which helps out the channel, as well as catch up on my blog. I write blogs about the cars that I'm driving, things that are going on behind the scenes. So if you'd like a deeper dive into what I'm doing, that can all be found at ZackPradle.com, or you can email me at PradleReviews@gmail.com to submit your vehicle that way as well. But let's get back to that 3.7 liter V6 under the hood. It makes 232 horsepower, and it annoys the crap out of me that it's a 3.7 liter, but this is called the 350. That just annoys me because old cars used to have the name, 350 meant it had a 3.5 liter. The 320 has a 3.2 liter. So why did they switch it up? I'm not quite sure for the 3.7. That being said, it makes an adequate amount of power. It's nothing crazy. I'm not being chucked back in my seat, but we are warmed up here out on the test track. We are way past our break-in mileage for the ML. So let's drop a window and see what this thing will do. Pretty solid revs up till 6,000 RPM when it shifts. Really impressed there. However, it's not crazy power. I'm not going to win many drag races with this, but that's okay. Like I said, paired to it, 5-speed automatic transmission. It's fine. It does the job. It's whatever. Last but not least, this here ML is all-wheel drive, and we'll talk about some settings with that a little bit later on. With that out of the way, let's talk about the interior. Well, in front of me, I have a bunch of gauges. On the left is my coolant temperature and fuel. In the center is my speedometer, and on the right is my tachometer, which is in tens instead of hundreds, which is kind of interesting. Moving on to the steering wheel, it's a giant hearing aid colored blob, which is pretty typical of Mercedes of this era. I don't get any buttons or anything on it. I do have a stalk for cruise control and of course lights and wipers and all that stuff. Off to the left, I have a vent and a fold-out cup holder, which is kind of interesting. Now, we'll loop this in with the other cup holders when we do our big friggin' bottle test a little bit later on, but very interesting placement for a cup holder. Very much like a Honda Fit. I do have my parking brake release, and then on the door, I just have my latch to get in and out and a bunch more tan leather. That's really it on the door. Moving into the center, I have 3 different climate control vents and our radio. So this is an older, very early 2000s Mercedes radio. It needs a security code, in which I do not have because the battery died. We'll talk about that at the end of the video, but it's a very 2000s radio. I like the look of it just in like a nostalgic sense. Off to the left, I do have a button for low range. So, like I said, this is all-wheel drive, and I can actually put it into low range. It has a low-range gearbox, which is interesting for a vehicle like this. Now, originally, this ML, because this is a first-generation ML, debuted in 1998, was supposed to replace the G-Wagon. This was supposed to be the more new, fresh, off-roader, rugged vehicle from Mercedes, but they ended up switching plans before release of having this as a more dailyable, less aggressive SUV, but you still get some hints of their original plan, like that low-range gearbox you don't really see on many other vehicles in this segment. Down below that, I also have another interesting European button, which is the front and rear fog lights. Kind of interesting there. You can toggle on rear fog lights. Again, a very European option. Then we have the climate controls themselves. They look super complicated, however, they're not. I have fan speed off to the left, temperature in the center, and where to send it off to the very right, which also has auto climate controls and rear on and off, which is nice. Then I have 4 buttons down below that. These little buttons that say 3 on them, I was very puzzled. I thought that they were for 3 windows at a time, but actually it's for the 3rd window. In the very back, there are these little winglets, I'd like to call them, and you can actually vent them out, and you can do that at the push of a button, which I am showing here, which is very, very nice. A little misleading on the button, but hey, I'm over it by now. Then I have the rear wiper and sprayer, as you're seeing, going on in the back there, which is nice. Traction control off, and then I have my little wing window for the other side as well. Moving down in the center, I have a pop-out 12-volt outlet, cigarette lighter, and ashtray. And then we're coming to the center console. The center console has the shifter. This looks very early 90s, late 80s to me. You know, I drove a 92 SL 500 and it looked to have almost the same shifter, which is interesting. Then I have my window switches. Again, a very European thing to have the window switches down in the center, but that is okay, as well as lock and unlock and mirrors are found down there as well. Then we come to this little openable center console cubby thing, of which we can fold out a cup holder, and it fits the big friggin' bottle. Guys, the Mercedes ML passes the big friggin' bottle test. But we're not done quite yet. Let's go over here, and unfortunately the side vent does not fit the big friggin' bottle, but it has a reachable cup holder that the big friggin' bottle fits in, so this gets an overall pass on the big friggin' bottle test. Center console isn't anything too interesting, however, it is 2-tiered, so you can open up just the little top or the bottom, which is a lot larger. And then we got to talk about the seats. The seats are nice and comfortable. They are finished in the same tan that is found throughout the rest of the interior. It's fine. They're decent. However, we do have back seats, so let's go do a back seat review. So we're in the back of the 2004 Mercedes ML 350. A couple of things to note back here. First of all, these seats are down, obviously, to show that they do fold down. The seats themselves are nice and comfortable. Headroom, great. Legroom, great. I have no issues there. Spatially, you're gonna be able to fit in the back of the ML very comfortably. Down here, I have 2 climate control vents. My window switches are down here, interestingly enough. And I do have pop-out cup holders and an extra little ashtray and 12-volt outlet down at the very bottom. I also get seat back pockets and things like that. Let's hop around the back and talk about the tailgate, but something else to note back here is that I have no control over those 3rd windows back here. Only the driver up at the very front can control the little wing windows. Something interesting there. But let's go talk cargo space. All right, so we're on the back of the ML 350. And here we are in the back. Now we do have this little storage cubby here. It's where like your jack is, things like that. If you're an ML owner, you're gonna wanna familiarize yourself with that. 12-volt outlet right here for inflating your tire. And we have some more storage and things like that. Now, these seats do go down, but they don't fold completely flat, which is a little sad to see, but not the end of the world. So tons and tons of space back here, which I really, really like. This is a pretty large SUV. You're not gonna really have space issues, which is very, very nice to see. Now we gotta talk about the looks, and I think that this is very, very blobby, very early 2000s. I don't like pretty much any Mercedes styling from the early 2000s. I think it was all kind of blobby and uninteresting. However, anytime I see these, I do have a giant sense of nostalgia. As a kid, seeing these drive around, this was hot. These were hot vehicles. And so it just brings me back to a time I had a little die-cast, I think it was an A-Class from the early 2000s. It was a European model. And I had a little Masato or whatever that brand was back in the day as a kid. And so this just reminds me of being a kid. And so let's get to my final thoughts here on the Mercedes ML350. And for that, I'm gonna need a little help from my friends. First of all, something interesting about the ML is that it wasn't built in Europe. The ML was actually the first Mercedes to be built in Alabama, which is interesting because the coolant temperature is in Celsius, something we don't use here in America, and it has rear fog lights, something we don't use here in America, and yet it was built in one of the most American states we have of Alabama. So I'm gonna give my good friend Hunter Rollins a call, who is from Alabama, to get his thoughts on the state itself. Hey.
Oh, what up, big dog?
It's from Alabama, so can you give me your 3 favorite things about Alabama?
Jack Brown's Burger Joint in downtown Birmingham. Barber's Motorsports Raceway and Museum. Oh, that's a toughie, dude. The freaking Space and Rocket Center in Huntsville.
Okay, thank you. Please go check out Hunter's social media and stuff. It was up on the screen. He's absolutely awesome. But the other thing, and this is starting to be the downside of the ML, is the reliability. These are not known to be as rugged as they were maybe originally marketed as. I'd also like to call a friend who works at a Mercedes dealership, has been for a long time, and get his thoughts on if he's seen any of these roll through.
What's up, guys?
Hey, it's the 3.7 liter. Are they reliable? Do they have issues or what?
Your biggest issues with these is going to be suspension components and tires. They go through ball joints like nobody's business. They chew through tires. They're really not good for the road, but they are so good off-road. Also, what's really cool is the producer that made keys for those went out of business a few years ago. So I don't know if we found somebody to produce keys for those, but for a while here, you couldn't get keys.
So you can't get keys for these?
Yeah. Unless it's been replaced already. They also have crank sensor issues where if it gets too hot, it'll cause the crank sensor to go open circuit and it'll just die. Wherever you are, it'll just die. And you'll go get it diagnosed somewhere after it cools down. Like you'll have it towed in the next day or some shit and they'll be like, there's no problems. It starts right up because it's cooled off. So until you get it nice and toasty and get that crank sensor to go open circuit again, you won't be able to see that issue.
Huh. And now I'd also like to call upon my good friend Colin, who also owns a rotary car, to talk about their experience with W163s.
What's up, guys? It's Colin from the Spin Cycle, and I'm here to tell you a little bit about the W163 Mercedes from an owner's perspective. I draw this analogy a lot, but I feel like the 163 is very much like all the rotary cars, in where problems with the early models, poor ownership practices, and not fully understanding the practical use of what something was designed to do led to a lot of unmet expectations and negative publicity. The pre-facelift cars, so 98 to 2001, were really a mixed bag for a lot of owners. Now, this prompted Mercedes to make year-to-year improvements and design changes. Now, by 2001, the cars were pretty well sorted, but many continued to let the car's earlier failings dictate how the 163 was represented. I did have to replace the radiator because it had begun to leak, and I changed the thermostat while I was in there, obviously, but other than that, that's about it. Now, along the way, I have had to replace the auxiliary coolant pump, the fan clutch, some gauge cluster bulbs, and the electric fans in front of the condenser, which are for the AC. But overall, I mean, the truck's treated me pretty well. But what you have to remember is that this is a light truck that was intended by Mercedes for inexperienced Mercedes owners of the time, because, you know, up until that point they hadn't really had a utility vehicle, to be able to kind of hoon this thing off-road a bit and not break it all the time. And at the end of the day, what you have is a unibody SUV bolted to a traditional truck frame, so they're unbelievably durable. and there's not a lot that you can throw at them that's gonna hurt them, I would absolutely buy another one. They're cheap, durable, easy to care for, easy to drive, they're safe. They have one of the most robust and longest lasting automatic transmissions that Mercedes has ever made. I mean, they used it in just about everything. And in my humble opinion, the 163 is one of the last best kept secrets in the used car world.
So with all of that being said, I like these nostalgically. I like seeing them. When I see them in a parking lot, I think, oh man, I remember the toy I had. I remember 2004 was like one of the first years I was like cognizant. You know, being born in 97, 04, I was what, 6 or 7 years old. I was starting to actually do things on my own, formulate my own ideas, and that was a really crucial time for me. And so seeing these around, I remember this was one of the first Mercedes I had ever seen or recognized as a Mercedes. So I love the nostalgia of it. But would I buy one? Absolutely not. No, I would not buy one of these. Like I said about the battery, I have worked with Chevy of Naperville for 3 years now, and not once have I ever had a car dead when I went out to go review it. Until today. Unfortunately, one of the salesmen had to come out and jumpstart this car. You can't blame the dealer. They're always on top of their game, but sometimes you just can't fight a Mercedes. So, there it is. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Huge thank you to Chevy of Naperville for letting me take out their ML350 as well as jump starting it. Chevy of Naperville is absolutely awesome. Their staff is awesome. They always greet you with a smile. I came in, I said, hey, I'm pulling out this car. They said, okay, let's get the jump pack. Let's make sure you're all set and comfortable. And they are absolutely awesome. If you're looking for a new Chevy or a used vehicle, please check out their website. It'll be linked in the description below, as well as it's up on the screen. They're absolutely awesome. Like I said, I've been working with them for 3 years, and I wouldn't do so if I didn't fully believe in them. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Huge thank you to not only everyone watching, but everyone who made this video possible. I appreciate you guys. Thank you for letting me review 700 cars. Just absolutely insane. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to rate the video, comment on the video, and subscribe if you really liked it. Take care, guys.